retired NYPD Inspector Paul Mauro and Curtis Sliwa, founder of the Guardian Angels, a group that patrols the city, tries to keep it safe. It's a volunteer organization. He's also a former Republican candidate for New York City mayor. Good to have both of you with us. Curtis, let me start with you. What goes through your mind when you see this young man who loses his life to a crazy person, crazy murderer?
It's what we see all the time now. Emotionally disturbed persons roaming the streets and the subways and the parks who need to be put in mental health care hospitals. We talked about the migrant situation at Creedmoor. That's where it first started, where they put up a tent. That's a psychiatric facility. 70% of the beds are empty, and yet we're putting illegal aliens there in a tent. No, let's take care of our own problems first like this. And you know, this is 1 block away from the building owned by Eric Adams, the mayor. His family lives in that building right on Lafayette Avenue, 1 block away. And yet there's not any expediency to do anything about it because the mayor, Swagger Man, has no plan to deal with it.
But you know what? The mayor, Paul, he had a plan right before they started really having an explosion of migrants in the city that he had to deal with to allow the police to take mentally disturbed people off the street and put them in the hospitals. But as Curtis points out, now the hospitals are full of migrants. It's like Dickens. It's insane what's happening in these buildings.
It really is. And one of the things that Adams is up against here is the fact that this time around, and I'm old enough to have been here the first time around that New York City really started to circle the drain, okay, back in the 80s and the 90s. The problem here is that this time around it's been institutionalized. He's up against Albany this time. In the wake of George Floyd, and even starting before that, during the de Blasio administration, and just in a general leftward surge here in New York State, Albany passed all these criminal justice reforms. That's law this time. It's not policy. So people say, oh, we need another Giuliani. We need another Giuliani. We need a Curtis Sliwa as the mayor. The problem is whoever the mayor is here is going to have to deal with the fact that the laws are against him. And these criminal justice reforms now are really coming home because you don't have a choice. You can be the most hard-charging, honest, integrity-full cop in the world. You don't have an option. These guys are getting right out. And as far as the mentally ill goes, there's no option. We used to put them in the ambulance. They'd go to Bellevue. They'd give them an IV at best, and then they would just cut them loose. They'd walk out ahead of you.
Crazy. I was talking to someone who said that they saw someone in a hospital gown with the tubes and the tape still on their hands walking around in the street. This poor person. I mean, my God, I can't even imagine, what they're going through. This is de Blasio. Because remember, everybody, you can trace this back to the George Floyd murder, which was horrendous. But people thought the solution was to vilify law enforcement, all law enforcement, not just the individual who did that or the people who were with him, but everybody. So now you end up with this huge deficit of safety and police officers. Here's a reminder from de Blasio back then. Watch this.
Our young people don't need to be policed, they need to be reached. We will be moving funding from the NYPD to youth initiatives and social services. While doing that, we will only do it in a way that we are certain continues to ensure that this city will be safe.
So this completely backfired. The city's not safe. My question, I want to leave on a note of what to do, okay? Curtis, give the leadership one indication. What do they need to do?
Let the cops go out and do their jobs. They keep acting like, oh, we can't let cops deal with the emotionally disturbed. They always did. They did a good job. Now all of a sudden you say you need mental health care experts. Where are they, Martha? I never see them in the streets or subways or parks. Let the cops be cops, and they can get us back where we need to be.
What is the best program, Paul, to bring people back into the profession? How do you get young men and women to say, I want to defend my city. I want to be part of this?
So the truth of the matter is that nobody goes into police work for the money, all right? That's
no.
And if you do, you're going to be
or
sadly
teaching
chagrined.
Or other very valuable things that we need lots of.
But that said, it isn't a bad gig. The benefits are good. They're getting some raises. The problem is anybody who goes into police work, they go in for realistically, they go in because they want to be the good guy. Comes down to support. They got to feel supported, not just here in town, by the entire criminal justice system. And where you're not getting that support right now is at the prosecutor levels. The Braggs of the world, the Alvin Braggs of the world, and the other ones, Krasner and all these other Soros prosecutors across the country, they are diametrically opposed to the mission of the police department and the public, in my estimation. That's where you got to start.
Yeah, there's a lot of history there. And what we see is the court system pretty tied up right now with Donald Trump and the accounting questions while this man loses his life in Brooklyn on the street. Curtis Sliwa, Paul Mauro, thank you, gentlemen. Always good to have you here.